Okay. Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for being here. I'm joined by the intrepid Murray, Wyden, Klobuchar team, and they're doing great. So, Social Security is one of the greatest things the federal government has ever done. Don't ask us, ask the American people. They love Social Security. It helps so many millions and tens of millions over the years, hundreds of millions of people. It is hard to believe that the Trump administration wants to cut Social Security. But that's what's happening. We're in a pincer move that shows just what they're up to. On the one hand, Doge has cut 7,000 workers from Social Security. And on the other, Elon Musk says Social Security is the biggest Ponzi scheme of all time. Tell that to the average Social Security recipient who depends on that $1,100 or $1,500 to buy food, pay the rent, go visit the grandkids. Tell them it's a Ponzi scheme. Tell them they don't deserve that money. It's outrageous. And you know they're serious when you see they cut the 7,000 already from the staff at the same time that Elon Musk says it's a Ponzi scheme. The richest man in the world is telling Americans that earned benefits that they depend on and they paid into are a scam. They are not a scam. And Americans know it. So now we know that something we Senate Democrats have feared for a long time is coming true. Social Security is under attack and at risk. You don't need to scratch your head and wonder what's going on when you see they're decimating the offices and the staff. And you don't need to ponder what might happen next when Trump and Musk say that the tens of millions of seniors and families and children who depend on these benefits are a part of a scam. It's insulting to them. They've been waiting for their Social Security so they can have a decent life. No one's getting rich on it, but so they can have a decent life in retirement. But Trump and Musk have decided to attack the bedrock of America's social safety net, and your pocket is in the way. Why are they doing it? Why would they do this? Why would they cut Social Security? They know how risky it is politically, because they're in a frenzy to give tax cuts, tax breaks, rather. Why would they do this? They're in a frenzy to give tax breaks, tax cuts to the wealthiest, the very wealthiest billionaires in America. They're just frenetic about it. And I can promise this to the American people. Senate Democrats, all of us, every single one of us, will fight this effort to decimate Social Security benefits and fight for Americans to get the money they deserve and they earn. Social Security sends over $126 billion to more than 73 million retired and disabled beneficiaries every month. And with 7,000 Social Security workers being fired, the benefits are in trouble. You have to wait longer. How about when someone doesn't get their check and needs it to pay the rent, or if you have it because even though you're older, a mortgage, and you have to call the phone, and you have to wait for hours to talk to somebody. You know how frustrating that is? But they don't want to just make people wait. They want them to give up and not get their benefits. And by the way, just parenthetically, Trump just announced that he's going to keep the tariffs. I mean, what is going on here? They're in a frenzy. They're going wild on something as sacred as Social Security, on something as deleterious to the American people as tariffs, which will raise their prices. So we are fighting this all the way. I remember back in 2005, George W. Bush had the same idea, and Harry Reid, Nancy Pelosi, and me, we got together. We said we're going to fight it, and we won. I will tell the American people, we're getting together, House and Senate Democrats, we're going to fight it, and guess what? We're going to prevent the cuts. But we need your help. We need every person who's a recipient or would-be recipient who'd like to get this benefit to call their congressmen, their Republican congressmen and senators, and give them one simple sentence: hands off my Social Security. Hands off my Social Security. Let me call on Senator Murray, and I'll leave it up to my three colleagues as we prepare for our meeting.
Well, we're here this afternoon because Donald Trump and Elon Musk are taking a wrecking ball to the Social Security Administration and putting your Social Security benefits at risk. People need help getting Social Security at some of the most vulnerable points in their lives. Maybe the death of a spouse, or the onset of a disability, or the loss of income that comes when they do retire. And despite what Elon Musk says, Social Security is not a Ponzi scheme. Social Security is a promise that the American people should be able to count on after they pay into it their entire life. Any part of that promise means being able to get on the phone with an actual human being without having to wait on hold for an hour or more, being able to visit an in-office person to help you get your benefits without having to jump through hoops or drive hundreds of miles. But Trump and Elon are decimating the Social Security Administration, and without adequate staff at the agency, there will be people who cannot get their benefits, period. The American people should realize the Social Security Administration is already at its lowest level of staffing in 50 years. That's why fewer than 40% of people who call to talk to a Social Security agent get through to talk to someone. That's why it takes, on average, 240 days to process a disability claim. And that's why last year an estimated 30,000 Americans died while waiting on a decision about their disability benefits. Yet Trump and Elon are now loudly declaring they want to significantly reduce staff further. They told SSA to draw up plans to cut staff by 50%. And their hand-picked acting commissioner is proudly declaring he wants to cut at least 7,000 Social Security Administration workers. And Trump and Elon are now pushing all Social Security Administration employees out the door. They are threatening their employees with future firings and forced reassignments while offering financial incentives to leave. That is an offer that went to everyone at the agency. I want to make sure everyone understands a few things. 90% of the SSA staff work across the country outside of the agency's headquarters at over 1,200 field offices to make sure that they are available to help people in every part of our country. Staff who are not providing direct service support perform critical work that keeps the agency and Social Security system operational, including supporting the agency's IT infrastructure. Elon and Doge are positively gleeful in touting that these staffing reductions, and they are working to close as many Social Security offices as they can get away with. Doge has proudly listed 45 Social Security offices on their wall of receipts as leases they have terminated. When you make it impossible for people to meet or talk to anyone about their Social Security benefits, that is a benefit cut. Maybe making it impossible to talk to a real person is a good business practice in Silicon Valley, but it is not how our government should treat its taxpayers. Year after year, Democrats fight to boost funding for the Social Security Administration so we can hire more staff and modernize their systems. Elon Musk almost certainly doesn't care, but for the friends and neighbors that I grew up with, Social Security is the most important reason they can retire with some dignity. Before he called Social Security a Ponzi scheme, it was just last month that Elon called the American people who rely on federal programs like Social Security parasites. Well, maybe Elon could use a little refresher on American history. For decades, our federal tax code has said, if you have a higher income, you're going to chip in more. The radical thing right now is that Social Security actually works in the opposite way. If you make $160,000 a year, You're paying the same amount into Social Security each year as a billionaire like Elon Musk. Someone can make over 12,000 times your salary, and yet their Social Security tax rate is a fraction of what your rate is. Think about that. Billionaires like Elon are putting just half a cent of every $100,000 they make into Social Security. So someone's leeching off the American taxpayer, that's for sure. But it is not hardworking Americans who need Social Security to help them retire. It is billionaires like Elon Musk, someone who is right now smugly breaking government agencies he knows absolutely nothing about, all to enrich himself with a tax cut. This is not a left or right issue. Americans of all political affiliations rely on Social Security. This is about whose side you are on. Democrats are with the workers, with the middle-class families, and with our seniors. And that is why we are telling Elon, get his hands off Social Security. Ron.
Thank you, Senator Murray. It's good to be with you and Senator Klobuchar and the Democratic leader. And I'm going to address a handful of points I think that haven't been made. The fact is that Social Security has paid out every dollar every American has earned since it was started 90 years ago. If Congress eliminated the payroll tax cap for individuals with annual incomes in the millions of dollars, an amount Elon Musk makes every few hours, and collected the money that they're illegally evading in taxes, Social Security would be fully funded for decades. Billionaires are defrauding American taxpayers with fake charities and partnerships set up for the express purpose of dodging taxes. And it ought to interest every American that Musk and Trump just fired the IRS enforcement personnel who are going to make sure those taxes would finally be collected. DOJ's attack on Social Security, in my view, is a first step on the path to privatizing Social Security. In just the past week, the DOJ appointed a commissioner has taken the following actions. Allowed DOJ unfettered access to Americans' health records, bank account information, and tax data. The Fort Knox of Americans' sensitive personal information. Wiped out Social Security's most experienced employees and continued to pressure more to resign when the agency is already at a 50-year staffing low. Proposed shuttering field offices across the country and closing more than half of the regional offices. Taken together, there is no conceivable way that Social Security benefits will be paid on time and in full to Americans who have earned them by paying into the program with every paycheck. What happens after the benefits are interrupted, of course, will be the question. Once they've broken it, DOJ and the billionaire allies are going to swoop in and hand Social Security over to the well-heeled contractors and Wall Street. Elon Musk is new to politics, but he gave the game away when, as my colleague said, he called Social Security a Ponzi scheme. If you go to any coffee shop in America, people will tell you Social Security is not a Ponzi scheme. Americans know the value of Social Security because their parents and their relatives have received invaluable financial security in their old age by paying into the program out of every paycheck. Elon Musk isn't like the rest of us. He doesn't know what families go through every day to pay the bills. Once again, Donald Trump is breaking his promise to protect Americans' earned benefits. Senator Klobuchar.
Thank you. Thank you, Senator Wyden and Murray, Senator Schumer. So I think a lot of people thought, would they really do this stuff? And I think they're getting their answer this past month. And the tax proposals that we've seen, particularly in the Senate and in the House, just show what they're doing. They're trying to get a bunch of tax breaks for people making over $400,000 a year, and they got to find money somewhere. And it just happens to be on the back of regular Americans. Ponzi scheme. I think about Social Security. I think everyone should think about what it means in families' lives. I know what it meant in my parents' lives. My mom taught second grade till she was 70 years old. She had 30 second graders at age 70, and then she finally retired. And it was Social Security and some retirement savings that kept her going. And she was able to then, at the end of her life, be in assisted living. My dad got late onset Alzheimer's, and Social Security was a big part of keeping him going. He also worked till he was pretty old. And when he was in the assisted living, I knew exactly when that Medicaid date was because his savings was going to run out. He died a year before he had to go on Medicaid, but it just showed that I know those dates. I knew how much money was going in Social Security, how much was from his savings from his newspaper career, and then when Medicaid was going to hit. And he got married 3 times, so there wasn't a lot of savings left by the time he ended his career. But we're really going off now. So 73 million Americans rely on Social Security for at least part of their income. Think about that. 4 in 10 seniors, it is the majority of their income. Men and women at the Social Security Administration, as Patty was pointing out, the reason they are in the local districts is a lot of our seniors, we all know this, and you probably know this from your own parents or grandparents, they rely on being able to talk to people. They bring in the papers they get in the mail or some email they got, and there can be a lot of confusion for anyone in dealing with it. But then you're trying to figure out what happened to my husband's benefits. What happens to my brother who's now in assisted living? I don't know what to do. They come to our offices all the time, and who do we call? We call the locals. If they're able to go over there and meet with them, they do, or at least our staff talks to them. This is a daily occurrence for so many seniors. So they are not just cutting off the lifeline with what the threats that are being made to Medicaid and Social Security. They are cutting off the people that process the 9 million applications for benefits every year, 80 million calls, 1,000 offices that get more than 30 million visits a year. I am all for effective government. When I managed an office, about 400 employees, I made a bunch of changes because I believed in reform and effective government. But when any business person comes in and wants to make some changes, they look at the whole picture. They decide, okay, we're going to cut this line. I'm going to make some changes to the number of employees. And they do it in a careful, thoughtful way. That is not what this is. As the former Social Security Commissioner put it, you're going to see the system collapse if this keeps on. So my hope is that they will right this ship, but I do not see that happening. We're going to hear more in the State of the Union. I'd mentioned my guest today for the State of the Union, who'll be here tomorrow, Gary Wordich, the head of Minnesota's Farmers Union. He knows very well that the people that are, if you look at the numbers of percentage-wise, Social Security, rural, look at rural, and look at the number of people that rely on Social Security in rural. Look at who's going to be really affected by the tariffs. With our farmers and our ranchers, and Minnesota, Canada's our biggest trading partner. You look at rural, a 25% tariff. Wait till you see the retaliatory tariffs and the effect that is going to have on rural America. So to me, this is just a 1-2 punch in like 1 week. You've got Social Security, Medicaid on the line for rural, and then you've got these tariffs coming in. Thank you.
All right, yes.
Senator Murray, you've heard Musk talk about the fact that there are, he's claimed hundreds of thousands of dead people still getting Social Security checks. In your mind, is there even any validity to this idea of looking for ways to reform the Social Security program? And is there a way to find these savings that he's looking for without it impacting everyday people's benefits?
Not in the huge ways that he is going after. Everybody wants efficiency. Efficiency actually comes, and we were trying to work on that in Social Security to get their IT systems up to speed and working better so people could get responses more quickly, more efficiently. That's not what he's doing. He's just firing all the people who answer the phones and who allow Social Security to work. I mean, think about this. You're older, it's confusing enough, and you're supposed to go to some machine to figure out when your husband dies, what your things are. I mean, just not capable of going through that. They call our offices, as Amy talked about, or they call Social Security. They have a right to get their Social Security benefit. And in this world, not in maybe the tech world of wherever they come from, but certainly in our world, taxpayers best way to help them get their benefits that they have earned efficiently is working with people in a real way, and that's who he's taking away.
Patty, can I just offer a statistic on that point? The latest numbers are Social Security delivers 99.7% of retirement benefits accurately and on time. This is an agency, we're happy, the finance staff, to give you these things.
And by the way, if you want to deal with waste, fraud, and abuse, you don't fire the Inspector General, so, and they did.
And there are changes you could make on how much people are taxed with the $400,000, people making over $400,000 a year, that they're able to put in more into, that would literally write the system for years and years to come. So that's one way they could do it, but that's not what they're talking about.
Senator Murray, are Democrats going to insist on language rolling back and preventing these cuts as part of a deal to bring the CR up for a vote to keep the government open?
We are looking at a number of different things. I'll just say this, the only one who wants a shutdown right now is Elon Musk. He's tweeted he wants one. Nobody else wants a shutdown. We are all working to get this done. In my opinion, the best way to do this is to do a short-term CR. Our committees are capable of getting this done with a short-term CR and ready to go to work.
Martin O'Malley predicted a collapse in
Yeah.
30 to 90 days. Do you think it's that dire?
I do. If they let this many people go there and don't get checks out, I think Ron's assessment is right. What is their final goal here? Is it to just privatize Social Security? That would be a huge disaster. But yeah, I mean, when you're firing this many people, closing that many offices, don't have people to write the checks, you are looking for disaster.
The point really is, if you take the system today with these superb kind of statistics like 97%, 99% are doing it accurately, and then you start hollowing it out, which is essentially what they're doing. You hollow it out, and then they say, oh my goodness, we need the private sector here, or we won't have a program. This is kind of the history of these kinds of efforts.
Social Security is not a for-profit agency, and it should not be. Yeah.
Anybody, a follow-up on the CR question. What provisions or what language, if any, would you like to add to a clean CR? And what's your response to the White House anomaly request?
I think the White House anomaly requests are completely inadequate. And again, the solution is in front of us, short-term CR, tell our committee to get to work. Democrats are at the table, we're ready to do that. One more.
One
and then-
of the things that you guys mentioned is the tariffs. Stock market's down a lot today on the tariffs. We've already seen growth estimates drop for the first quarter, or negative in the Atlanta survey, and there's now potential for inflation to go up. This is a concern that a lot of Republicans have as well. And you're wondering what you think is there an opening here to get some bipartisan pushback on the tariff issue?
I really hope so. Amy and I are northern border states.
Yeah.
We depend on our trading partnerships with Canada on a broad range of products and things. Not only that, but we are already seeing our northern communities that rely on tourism from Canada drop significantly because of the way they're being treated. This is having a huge economic impact, regardless of the tariffs. Tariffs go in, we pay more.
We have tried so hard to actually expand our markets and done a pretty good job in our trade with Canada. That's why you see better infrastructure. We have a lot of, during the pandemic when there were shutdowns of the border, we did everything we could to open it up as soon as possible. This is a crazy way to handle our allies, right? He is literally reaching out to Russia at the same time that he's putting a 25% tariff on Canadian goods. And I know what's going to happen for our farmers. We have got even some of the fertilizer and things like that. If you look at how much that adds to a cost for an acre of corn or an acre of soybeans, it's an unbelievable market. This has been one of the really crown jewels of American economy. The fact that we are able to export agriculture and have free trade back and forth. There's always things we can do to improve it. The USMCA was negotiated, the Mexican-Canadian trade agreement, under President Trump. He was always proud of that trade agreement. And if we want to make changes, say I have some pet peeves about Canadian dairy and how that works. Okay, fine. That's a place to do it. Not with this across the board 25% tariff. And yeah, when they're booing at hockey games, that's a big deal in Minnesota, because that is an example of tourism on steroids. When we've got all of the trade that we do all the time with Canada.
In answer to your question, I cannot imagine Republican members of Congress aren't hearing what we're hearing.
Yeah, and businesses, farmers, they're all hearing it. They're just not saying it out loud. Okay.
Last question.
I'm going to go do my rural radio interviews in
Before
Minnesota.
we
Yeah.
leave trade real quickly, coming over here, we were getting the information that manufacturers look like they're responding really badly to this latest round of hits.
One more question, and I've got to go to.
Senator Schumer mentioned the Democratic effort to push back on privatization in 2005.
3, I think it was.
Washington may not be feeling the DOGE, perhaps not, on issues like USAID, but do Democrats see Social Security as something that could resonate? Because obviously,
It will resonate when seniors and people who rely on Social Security call because their disability check or their Social Security check is wrong or something and they can't get through, they're going to be furious.
and how soon do you think that
Well, with the layoffs and the office closures, we're already starting to hear from people who are having trouble getting through.
just reaching the
Yeah,
offices or
right.
not getting their check?
No, I have not heard it personally, anybody not getting a check. But if you cut that many staff personnel and offices, that is just inevitable.
This is hollowing out the program. You're reducing, staff. You're going to make it harder for people to get information. This is the kind of sort of prelude to privatization.
Thank you all.
Thank you, Senator.
Thanks, Patty.